Welcome to a sample of the Chronicles of the Organon, Book 1, Thunder. I would like to give you a good portion of the real interactive, multi-touch book, but this website does not support that format. A multi-touch iBook can only be seen and used on an iPad, iPhone, or Mac computer. Since I am unable to show you the real lessons in action, I have taken screenshots of the Reader's Preface, the Prologue, and 2 pages from the first chapter. I have placed these pages on this PowerPoint presentation and I have embedded some audio, and you will have some idea of how this new genre works. It is very difficult to explain this book, but after you watch this presentation, you can pause it and read each individual page. This is a huge project that has taken 9 years. Any student who tackles this book and completes it as intended will have quite an accomplishment. This book is certainly not for everyone, but if you have a student who likes to read and has a real thirst for knowledge, it may be for them. This book is intended for educational enrichment. I am a retired science and technology teacher who specialized in gifted instruction. Originally, this book was aimed at that demographic, but I believe that any student will benefit from this type of learning. I am looking forward to hearing from you. The preface has a link to my email and I would be delighted for any feedback. Thank you. Now let's take a look at the Reader's Preface. The Reader's Preface begins with a subtle challenge. On the right, the 7 prefaces are listed, and finally, there is some small print to emphasize the importance of the preface. There are 7 prefaces because this book is aimed at 7 demographics. I love to teach, and if you get the opportunity to read all 7 carefully, you will see what I mean. Page 2 introduces the idea of FAQs, and the question and answer format for explaining the book. The picture of the Batcave from the Batman TV series is used to demonstrate popovers. When you tap on the picture, a popover appears. This one explains to the reader that hidden things are on the page. One hidden item is a link to the reader's email program on their computer. When the reader touches the letter Q in FAQ, they receive a prompt to open their email program with an email already addressed to the author. That would be me. They can make comments, recommendations, and ask questions. This is just one of the features that makes this interactive book truly interactive. Page 3 shows the tangential link icons. Tangential links are embedded in the story and they lead to other places. You may have noticed that 3 words on page 3 have bold, blue font. These are targeted vocabulary words which will be in the vocabulary challenge at the end of most chapters. If the readers do not know a word, they can simply double tap on the word and select lookup, and like magic, the word will be defined for them. When the reader touches the first tangential link icon, they activate a popover that explains challenges. Challenges are actually investigative learning activities. This particular popover explains the components of a challenge, which is similar to a lesson plan. Without the teacher, the challenge sets the learning goal. The outfit lists the materials. The track is a procedure. Taking stock is a way of summing up the learning and contemplating the things that were learned. Finally, when you click on down the rabbit hole, a link will take you to an online video that goes deeper into the subject, or possibly, off on some bizarre tangent. In the rabbit hole, the reader will learn where other links are hidden that cannot be seen. The rabbit hole is interesting. One never knows what will happen there. The next popover on page 3 discusses the glossary. The glossary is very important because it is an integral part of the story and it also gives background information. You can also find out the inside story and the reason I put some of the things in the story. There are also things that are hidden in the glossary. In this particular popover, I warn the readers to click on every bold, grape colored word, whether they know it or not, because the glossary is that important. Now let's move on to page 4 of the Reader's Preface. Page 4 explains the vocabulary challenges with a link to an online video. There is also a practice test using the 4 bold, blue words in this preface. This is where the reader can try out their first widget. Page 5 explains the book in more detail, and then there is an interactive map. The map can be expanded to take up the whole screen, and then the reader is able to tap on each individual banner on the interactive map. The insert picture shows what happens when they tap on a banner. This particular banner zooms in and shows all the chapters in the book. This map shows the entire structure of all of the books in the series. Page 6 continues to explain the book, and then there is an audio file that can be played when the reader taps on it. Page 7 discusses the artwork. Each picture has a popover that discusses the art in more detail. Page 8 wraps up the reader's preface. In the book, you would move on to the educator's preface and the others, but since our space is limited we will move on to the prologue so that you can see the actual story. The prologue is where the story actually begins. I begin with an actual quote that came from the October 1920 issue of the American magazine. If you look it up you will find it there. This quote came from a real person and I always thought it would make a great start for a story. I took that picture myself. It's the picture of the old man's office in Fort Myers, Florida. The old man is the first investigative learning challenge in the book. The challenge is labeled as biography, history, and science on page 2. When the readers tap on the icon they will see challenge number 1, the old man. They will need to collect clues from the prologue, which are accurate, and determine who the old man is by researching online. I will not tell you who he is because I don't want to give it away. The rabbit hole on this one is very interesting. The third page has 2 challenges. Note that the challenge is always related to the red font in the text of the story. That second challenge is very important because it has to do with the title of the book. The third challenge rabbit hole is really something. You will see. The prologue continues through page 4 and on the page 5 where we encounter 5 vocabulary words and our first scene view. Scene view is an idea that I came up with that is supposed to be like Street View in Google Earth, but it's animated in 3D and it brings the reader into the scene. The scene view expands to full screen and then plays. I think it's very cool. Beneath the scene view, Calvin Fauntleroy joins the story. He represents the red, a symbolic thing that you will learn about later. The old man is linked to blue. You will see challenges in sociolinguistics and literature. In the literature challenge the reader must exit the book and complete an entire book by Jules Verne. The catch is, they do it by audio on a free website with a free app. It'll do them a lot of good. There's a very interesting question when they take stock as well. At this point you might be realizing that this book really is a challenge. But let's move on. The prologue continues with the saga of Calvin Codfish Fauntleroy. There are a few more vocabulary words and when we reach the end of the prologue there is a substantial vocabulary challenge with 21 words. After the prologue, we move on to chapter 1 and a different millennium. Suddenly we move back in time to the dawn of civilization. We are about to meet an incredible scientist and begin an epic adventure. There will be a total of 14 learning challenges with many additional components and unique presentations. The reader will learn a great deal. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey. I believe it will be worth it.